Support comes from Seattle Rep, presenting the return of The Play That Goes Wrong, back by popular demand this June. This award-winning comedy follows the Cornley Drama Society as their production unravels with missed cues, collapsed scenery, and onstage mishaps. Performances begin June 11th on the Bagley Wright stage. Tickets and information at seattlerep.org.
You know, every day on Up First, NPR's Golden Globe-nominated morning news podcast, we bring you 3 essential stories. At the heart of each story are questions. What really happened? What really mattered? What happens next? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious and to follow the facts. Follow Up First wherever you get your podcasts and start your day knowing what matters and why.
What is it about animal stories? You know what I'm talking about. If a book has a dog in the title or a cat on the cover, you tense up, right? You immediately think, oh no, please tell me that dog doesn't die. There's just something about a story with an animal that really pulls at our heartstrings, especially when the animal is the narrator. I'm Katie Campbell, and this is a bonus episode of Meet Me Here, KUOW's Arts and Culture podcast. And we're getting lit with Shelby Van Pelt, author of the hit novel Remarkably Bright Creatures. Shelby's 2022 bestseller does prominently feature a critter, but not a furry one. No, rather than a loyal pup or a sassy cat, Remarkably Bright Creatures stars a giant Pacific octopus named Marcellus. He's kept in the fictional Sowell Bay Aquarium, which sits on Puget Sound. And he's not happy about it. He considers the aquarium tank a prison, and he's all too aware of the limited time he has left in his life. Yeah, see, Marcellus may not be warm and cuddly, but he does set us up for tears. So get your Kleenex, y'all, because Marcellus and his unexpected friends are coming to your screen.
From this side of the tank, I've seen it all.
Circular motions, not up and down.
Of all the humans, I suppose I mind the cleaning lady the least.
That's the fresh new Marcellus, voiced by Alfred Molina. Remarkably Bright Creatures was a huge success as a novel and has now been adapted by Netflix into a film starring Molina as the giant Pacific octopus, Sally Field, who you heard there as Tova, the cleaning lady, and Louis Pullman as her protege, Cameron. The movie just hit Netflix's platform on May 8th, and author Shelby Van Pelt is on tour to spread the word. Of course, considering just how much of the book takes place in Washington and her own history here, she had to stop by KUOW to talk to me about how it feels to see her story come to life on the screen, and how she even came up with this strangely sentimental cephalopod to begin with. Shelby, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I love this book. I'm very excited to see it come to life on the screen. But Shelby, I can be a real killjoy at times. I'm a peppy person, but I like my novels a little darker. And sometimes a sweet character, especially a critter, grates on me. But I'm happy to report that was not the case with Marcellus, the giant Pacific octopus. What inspired him and his story?
Well, he's kind of a grumpy old man in octopus form. I was very aware when I was writing it that, the human animal stories can sometimes be a bit saccharine. But, I think Marcellus being this kind of curmudgeon made it easy to stay away from that for the most part. I really was inspired to kind of harness the voice after just watching videos online of octopuses sort of misbehaving or doing interesting things, in captivity. Everything that Marcellus does in the book is like inspired by real octopus, events. So,
right. Like him escaping his tank and
escaping the tank, collecting objects, having very strong preferences for particular people. Those are all like real octopus behaviors.
Amazing. Eating a midnight snack of sea cucumbers, perhaps. So was it just videos, or did you see one in real life that made you think you're a character?
Well, growing up in Tacoma, I've been just around aquariums a lot. I used to go to the Point Defiance Aquarium a lot as a kid. The Seattle Aquarium, obviously amazing. And so, I think octopuses felt very familiar to me. I wasn't like a marine biologist or anything
Sure.
like that. Very much came to it from this lay perspective.
Not like a cephalopod nut or anything.
Well, I am now.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly. Now, your main human character, Tova, has lost a lot in life. Her husband, her brother, and her son when he was just 18, which it turns out Marcellus may know something about, but we won't give too much away. But why did you want to talk about grief in this rather unique way, like bringing an octopus into the mix?
Well, I think grief is, one of the most basic human emotions. It's something that everyone feels. I think a lot of times when we talk about grief, it is about, someone dying or that type of loss. But, we feel grief every day in other forms. You can grieve a road not taken. You can grieve an opportunity lost, a change. And so, I wanted to make it this book about grief that wasn't, I didn't want it to feel heavy. I wanted it to feel relatable.
Yeah.
And, having Tova, the main sort of thing that she's grappling with is this loss of her son. And, this happened decades ago. And so it's something that she has been carrying around for a very long time. Right. And I wanted really to just kind of unpack like how do we carry these things? And how can we carry them more effectively, maybe?
Yeah. You said that you didn't want it to be too heavy. And that's what I think you struck this really incredible balance. But there's also grief for Marcellus, too. Like, this is not spoiling the book, and I hope not the movie. But his time is limited.
Yes.
Marcellus explains right away that the average lifespan for a giant Pacific octopus is 1,460 days, and he's been in this aquarium for 1,299 as you start the book. And he estimates he has about 160 days left before, quote, "my sentence is complete." I'm guessing trips to the aquarium maybe are a little bit of an existential crisis for you, Shelby, is what I'm gathering.
Well, I did. It's funny. It's not really like a pro-aquarium or anti-aquarium book, but I did want people to sort of feel that tension. It's, when we keep animals in captivity, in particular, very intelligent ones, like that's a lot of responsibility. I wanted people to feel that tension of needing to sort of do right by the creatures that we, keep in captivity.
Absolutely. So now your novel has been adapted by Netflix. Very exciting. Big deal. But as we've talked about on this show before, adaptations can be fraught, especially for a much beloved novel like yours. How are you feeling about it right now?
Well, I am thrilled with how the film came out. It's a great movie. It has made me cry many times. The last time I watched it, I knew which part was going to make me cry. This was at the premiere in Los Angeles last week, and I had all my makeup done. And I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. And I made it through that part without crying. And then 2 minutes later, a different scene got me. It is just so many of the same vibes that are in the book are in the movie. The plot departs a little bit here and there, but the characters really feel so much like themselves.
I got to say, when I was watching the trailer, like seeing Sally Field as Tova did feel correct to me.
100% correct.
How do you feel about someone like that being your Tova?
Well, it's amazing. Sally actually read the book before it was even published, and she wanted to do this. I think that's what makes me feel the most kind of warm and fuzzy about it was, it's not like she was recruited. Right. She kind of proactively said, hey, I want to play this role. I really connect with this character in this story.
That's incredible.
It is.
Well, this is where I got to bring a little bit of my, we'll not call them killjoy vibes, but we'll call them afraid for a character I love vibes. Because I'm worried about Marcellus on the screen. Like a talking octopus can feel very Disney, or it could work as well as Rocky in the recent Project Hail Mary movie, which I didn't like at first with the Rocky character. And then I was like, never mind, I love this rock spider thing. Were you happy with your star Cephalopod?
Oh, they did a great job. I know that is one of the things that I think was most anxiety producing for Livy Newman, the director, and her team was, you don't want it to feel cartoony. You don't want it to feel Disney. But they filmed a real octopus for a lot of the footage and then modeled the CG after that octopus. And it is so well done that you really can't tell which is which when you're watching the film. I can't tell even in a lot of the scenes, whether it's a real octopus or a CG. They took great care to make sure that everything that the CG octopus is doing is modeled on real octopus behavior. You know, he's not flying around or, you know, doing anything silly. It's very real.
So it's very much modeled in the same way that you modeled it off of real octopus behavior.
Absolutely.
Love to hear that. Why do you think your novel was so popular, by the way? Like, what nerve did it hit?
Well, people call it that octopus book. I think it's very memorable. You're not going to confuse it with any other book. So, you know, from the start, I think it kind of had that going for it. But, you know, I think it's been a book that has been done by a lot of book clubs. Mm-hmm. It has been recommended by booksellers, librarians. It's just sort of a book that people will press into a friend's hand and say, like, here, just trust me, you have to read this. I know it sounds weird, but it works. And it's an intergenerational story. So I've heard of so many, you know, a mom and daughter, like book club, they'll read it together. It's really kind of a book that anyone can read. Yeah.
What does it feel like to see your book take off and then now to see it on the screen to touch even more people?
It's just so bizarre to me that I wrote so much of this sitting at my kitchen table. I spent so much time with these characters in my head, and it's surreal to see them on the page, and then, you know, even more so to see them on the screen and represented as real people. I can't think of them any other way now.
Well, Shelby, I have one last thing for you. So you know that feeling when you've just finished a book that takes you into the mind of another so thoroughly that you feel like you know them. You develop this fondness for a character, whether it's human or otherwise. So you need another good book or a movie or something to feel closer to them. We're calling this Recommended If You Liked Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt.
Oh, one of my favorite books that I've read in the last couple of years is called The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett. Ooh. And it is, like Remarkably Bright Creatures, a book that deals with a lot of really heavy issues, you know, death, abuse, just like really hard stuff. But it is so laugh out loud funny. The characters are so quirky. And there is a cat who can predict death.
Oh,
named Pancakes in this book. So I think that Pancakes and Marcellus would get along if they were to hang out.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm also going to recommend The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. It has similar intergenerational friendship vibes. There's a grandma relationship that is just really beautiful. And if you want to just sit in your feelings about family for a little while longer after this book, give that a go. Also, go out, enjoy the summer. Shelby, you're from Tacoma. You said, where's your favorite place to go out in the Pacific Northwest in the beautiful spring and summer?
Oh my gosh, I spent so much time out at Point Defiance when I was a kid.
Yes.
I was a runner. I ran cross country and track, and that trail loop around there, I feel like I still know it like the back of my hand. And I don't think there's a better place to go out hiking and walking than to be in the old growth forest overlooking the water.
Well, I do hope you get to enjoy some of this lovely weather we're having while you're on tour in the Pacific Northwest, Shelby. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Shelby Van Pelt, author of Remarkably Bright Creatures, which hit Netflix on May 8th. And thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Meet Me Here. Meet Me Here is produced by KUOW, a proud member of the NPR network. It's hosted by me, Katie Campbell, Dyer Oxley, and Jeannie Yandel. And it's produced by Brandy Fullwood, Kyle Norris, and Matt Martin. Our editor is Phyllis Fletcher. You can find more and support the show at kuow.org/meet. I'm Katie Campbell, and I hope to see y'all back here for our next regularly scheduled episode on Wednesday.
Support comes from Seattle Rep, presenting the return of The Play That Goes Wrong, back by popular demand this June. This award-winning comedy follows the Cornley Drama Society as their production unravels with missed cues, collapsed scenery, and onstage mishaps. Performances begin June 11th on the Bagley Wright stage. Tickets and information at seattlerep.org.
On the latest Sound Politics, Katie Wilson made some big promises when she ran for Seattle mayor.
She's more than 100 days in office, and her first big self-imposed deadline is coming up. Can she set up 500 shelter beds in time for the World Cup?
Deadlines. Who cares about them, right?
I mean, journalists definitely, and voters maybe?
Also, why some of Wilson's supporters are not happy with her moves out of the gate All of that on Sound Politics, wherever you get your podcasts.